Fig fam, how are we? Beautiful sunny weekend, and you won't believe it, it's been hot and dry after being hot and wet for a good 8+ days now, and we just had a beautiful summer thunderstorm squall, and everything is already greening up. Look at everything. This heat has been really testing us. It's been testing myself in the orchard and the nursery. But we look fresh right now, guys. We've battled fig rust and heat exposures, and we are just rolling with everything. And we're getting to July, which means that some of the first figs will be ripening here in southeastern North Carolina, predominantly from my container figs because they always wake up sooner. And that means they leaf out sooner, and it means they set fruit sooner. So in-ground trees or more on an organic cycle with nature. But if you guys look over here, all the trees are pretty happy. Now, because it's been so hot and dry, even my in-ground trees had seen some yellowing of the leaves. And it's not necessarily fig rust. The fig rust happens secondary. But you can look in here, my Genovese narrow AF. It's got its main crop coming on. Not a ton of figs, not quite sure why, but if you look here, that just popped right off. And see how it's mostly yellow? There is fig rust on here, but that is because the yellowing, weakening of these leaves made it more susceptible to the fig rust because of how hot it's been. This is a 6-year-old tree, and it was still seeing leaf drop. My Peter's honey even, which is a 5-year-old tree, loaded with fruit, guys. Loaded with fruit every branch. This is all new main crop figs that I pruned back, and now we're at about a 7-foot tree, but that's also about 7 feet wide, and it's beautiful. But heat stress, it happens, and that's okay. It's part of the game here in the southeast, because these are all in-ground trees. Now, before we get into today's episode, I wanted to show you the recovery of all of my fig trees that have been cut down to the ground, including Smith. Look at that. Including Long de Oot. Beautiful. Fantastic leaves, by the way, guys. Look at Figo Preto. So if you have a mature Black Madeira KK or a Figo Preto, even Black Madeira UC Davis, Black Tuscan, Violet Support, there's a few others that are just in that Black Madeira family. They bounce back fantastic in the ground here, zone 8B, and they are loaded with fruit. Fruit all over, all these new branches that come out of a huge main trunk down here. And when I say main trunk, I gave it supports of all these bamboo and plastic rods to help give it structure. But right here, a huge 8-year-old trunk. In fact, I bought it, let's see. Yeah, 2016 I bought that tree as a small rooted cutting in Pennsylvania, and then I've cared for it through all the places I've lived until I put it in the ground here in 2020 in Wilmington, North Carolina. So beautiful thing, guys. My Paradiso got knocked over in this storm, but again, look. So we're just about at that 6-foot marker, and all the trees look fantastic. Down to the ground, all of them. All of these trees were down to the ground. So this is the resiliency of the fig tree. It's generally the first 3 years that you really need to care for the figs, get them established. But if you do the consistency of just getting them in a comfortable, sunny space. Now, mind you, I have shade in the morning, and then it opens up the sun about noon, and I have sun until sunset over here. And this is the sunniest point of my yard. That's where my fig trees are. And it is just really working out, guys. I'm looking forward to not having such a dry spell going forward for the rest of summer here in Wilmington, North Carolina. I really want to just see the afternoon thunder squall come through, because what it does is it cools off all my potted plants that have been really hot. Even if it heats back up again, just that rainfall is enough to really take the edge off, because I am reluctant to put up my shade cloth that I can connect from my greenhouse to my fence line. And I kind of make this big shade tunnel that goes all the way across. And I also have to set up irrigation. Now, I reached out to you guys on Instagram being like, what do I do? And I got some great options. And so I'm going to look into it. I had drip irrigation in the past. I'm going to give it a try again and see if I can get a more consistent system set up that's automated a little better. So if you guys have any advice about an automated system, please reach out. But I'm shooting 2 episodes today. So if you see another video this week with these awesome pants on, it's because I shot it all today because I'm busy the rest of the week. But I wanted to do something awesome. I wanted to give you guys a full fig tour. I want to show you all the ones that I'm growing in the ground, in containers that I've selected to keep as mother trees. And then I want to show you the experimental nursery. And then finally, if some of you have purchased figs from me in the past, where I keep all my young trees. And then a little bonus footage. I'll show you all the other stuff that I grow too. So I'll show you where I have my fig trees set up, why I have them set up where they are, and how I've kind of oriented the nursery the way it has come out to be in a very organic fashion. Truly fallen in love with this place while keeping the yard open enough for the rest of my family to enjoy whatever they want here. So let's go on a quick tour. So guys, this is the mini orchard, and this is one of my happy places where I first got a property that I could put figs in the ground and I could really test where I wanted to put all my figs in an ideal scenario in my yard. And what I found was in the back corner, I get southern light and I get western light all afternoon. And from here, I built out the rest of my nursery and garden. I have here my Negroni and I have Rhone de Bordeaux here. The Rhone de Bordeaux is still new and young and had that advanced to the ground. But the reason I put these 2 varieties here, and if you're familiar with Rhone and Negroni, Negroni also goes by Violet de Bordeaux, also Beer's Black. Got these 2 figs, and this is strictly, there's nothing scientific about this. This is just forum and feedback related from other fig growers, is they do better in shadier spots than other fig varieties. So what I did is I put them underneath the water oak, and they seem to be thriving really well, guys. I don't have a ton of fruit, but that's because I'm concerned more about their growth this year to get a nice growth habit than anything else. In fact, the rooted cutting I put in the ground here last year, I really just want to get established. So I'm letting it grow its root ball out as much as possible. But I put them in this area because it is one of the shadier spots because of this giant water oak. Now I'm ready to show you the micro orchard and the nuances associated with it. Look how beautiful this is. This, guys, is where I keep all my favorite trees, all my top varieties, all the ones that I'm hopeful for putting in the ground for an orchard eventually. And not only am I growing them in the ground, but I'm growing them in containers permanently as well. Because at some point, I am going to want to move them. And for all intents and purposes, for what it constitutes to be an orchard, this is a pretty tight space. And so keeping them in containers keeps them a little more manageable as I am growing out figs, because they will often mature quickly in these containers and mature faster. And even the spacing here from like in-ground trees is a little tight. We're looking at 6.5 feet spacing across these trees and 7-foot spacing between all of these container figs. If you look at a lot of these container trees, you'll see that they have 40, 50, 60 figs on them, especially right here with the LSU Tiger, and right here with my Chihuahua Calabrese. There is one spot of my micro orchard that I actually have a gap for where fig trees used to be, and that I'm not having any fig trees currently. And that is because the fig trees that I had planted here had always struggled. They struggled. Eventually, the result was root knot nematode. The space on the far wall that we'll go over in a second, and the space right here had mixed patches of soil, and then there was some deep black organic matter because there was previous forest here, and then there was open sandy area that was right here. And unfortunately, the open sandy area had what we can all anticipate root knot nematode. And it affected my fig trees really bad, to the point that one of them I only saved one cutting from. I rooted it. It's my Salche fig tree. I'm happy that I rooted it, but I lost another one because it just was so stunted in its growth. It wasn't worth keeping. What ended up happening in this corner is I have a nice accented garden. I dug up about 4 inches because that's all the topsoil compost blend that I had left. And I dropped it in here. I started growing mustard greens. I started growing marigolds, which you can see here bouncing back. And I started growing a lot of other items that, A, wouldn't be affected by root knot and help get rid of root knot to begin with. And now I'm testing out watermelons that I've grown from seed here. I got seedlings of the marigolds coming up as well. I got some kales. I got some zucchini. And brassicas tend to do better, and root knot nematode doesn't like them. And there's one thing I want to show you right here, and that is my Negra Agde fig. I think it was still exposed to it, but I'm just doing heavy fertilization, healthy soil, healthy microbial. This is a place that I really want to focus on that microbial life. Mulching the top, maybe doing some jadam gardening. So basement figs, I gotta ask you a bunch of questions on jadam for this area and frankly for all of my fig trees. I think that's such a fantastic regenerative method. So something to consider as I'm building out the microbes in this space here. Like keeping one fig here allows me to see the progress of what I'm doing in the soil for fig trees. And so I'm glad this Negra de Agave fig is built here. This whole corner back here gets the most sun and heat. So they've been really suffering from heat wave we've been having here in Wilmington and dry spell. But these are all my coledodoms. So I'm going to start here. And I'm going to move backwards and I'm going to show you all my figs. Hopefully you can hear me. And then we'll do a slow-mo walkthrough so you can kind of see what they all look like. So right here is a Hardy Chicago called Brooklyn Park JB that tastes phenomenal. It's great against splitting. I did a rejuvenation prune on it. It's responded wonderfully. So anticipate the ones on this side to be about 8 feet tall by the end of the growing season. So Hardy Chicago, Eddie of d'Argentile, Socorro Black, which also died down to the ground, Negra de Agde. Fantastic varieties. Socorro Black, I actually propagated a bunch more for myself. That is a stunning, stunning variety. Not to take away from these other amazing varieties. One more tier back, nothing on this side, right? LSU Tiger, which is so prolific, so early, so awesome for having LSU variety. It's a workhorse fig. Then I have Medici #1, right? From Medici Game Lands outside of Firenze. It just has a nice provenance to it, which is why I grow it. So I'm kind of curious on the fruit. It's fruit for you guys. I'd love to hear about it. But other than that, it's a very ornamental sentimental thing, just to like have something that's rich in culture. Then I have my Paradiso Gene next here. Paradiso Gene, it can die back every year, but I am in love with it. When I first started growing figs, I had to have Paradiso fig. I had to have all the Paradisos. When I first found out about growing figs, I thought that that was like the best fig you could possibly have, and why wouldn't you have anything else? So when I got my hands on Paradiso Gene, shout out to Bill who wants to be the path back in, oh my gosh, 2015, so it was a decade ago now. I had to keep it, and it's the same tree, even through multiple diebacks. It still tastes great. It's a nice Adriatic fig. It's not huge, but it's a robust flavor, and it bounces back every year for me now as an established tree. It stays. It's got history in my hands, but I would say Paradiso Giovanni has been my favorite Paradiso out of all of them. But that's only because I haven't tried Ciro's yet, so we'll see. Moving back next year, I have Triano Calabrese. It is my favorite Atriano type fig. They're sweet, melon dipped in honey, and they're almost better eaten in the hot sun than they are cooled off in the fridge. So highly recommend that. And I have Gato de Salento, which is my favorite variegated fig outside of Plododon and Malva. And it is just prolific for a fig. It's a honey flavored fig that's variegated, which it is rare to see. And then it's just so productive, precocious. Even in year 2, it's pumping out fruit on every node. So that's how you know it's a great keeper. And then I have Figo Credo. This Figo Credo is awesome here, guys. Let me see if I'm going to bring you down closer as we work down the orchard. Here we go. Every node on this LSU Tiger is just loaded with fruit, guys. It ripens early. It's beautiful. It's got thick lobed leaves on them. I love that tree. Triano Calabrese, classic Atriano type leaves or Canadria, what have you. Huge fruit. Regatta de Salento. You guys have seen pictures if you haven't followed me already. Just so many fruits on this tree. Look at that. This thing is 3 feet tall. Look at all the figs on it. No sign of slowing down. And then Figo Preto, you get to see over here, died down to its stump, and it is just got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 main branches. I have some suckers down at the bottom, and it is loaded with fruit on every node. And those are the trees you want to keep. You want the trees that are going to be giving you figs on every node, can die back and grow the next year and give you figs. Those are the ones I want to focus on. And then on top of that, that they taste great, right? All figs taste good. Some figs taste great. Figo Preto. You can strive for the Black Madeira just for the name, but we've also seen that Black Madeira KK Figo Preto are genetically the same, and it makes so much sense. You can look at my black Tuscan I got from Barbie. I'm so glad I have it too because the fig is phenomenal. It's a black Madeira fig or a Figo Preto, and it's a must-have. Poldodons, Figo Pretos, or black Madeira types, must-haves, right? Next to your back. Boom. This is another workhorse variety that always surprises me every year because it ripens early in the season, which is fantastic. My goal is to have figs that ripen from June for Bravas and July for Bravas, right? But in reality, August, September, October, November for main crop. And I always just want to have something ripening at any given time. LSU Gold is one of the first to come out swinging right around the time that we have Triana Calabrese or the other LSU varieties for that matter. Over here, I have Bass's Favorite. To this day, I haven't found anything to compare to it. If you guys have anything to compare to Bass's Favorite, I'd love to hear about it because it's a fantastic variety. It's a little slow grower, but it's worth its weight in gold when these figs ripen. It's so delicious, guys. I highly recommend it. If you haven't checked out Trees of Joy, he runs a beautiful website and has beautiful fig varieties to check out. But Bass's Favorite that I got from him is bar none one of my favorite figs for sure. Moving over here behind the LSU Gold, we also have Smith. Smith is in the ground for me. When it does ripen, it's phenomenal. It just is a little cold sensitive. And because I propagate so many fig cuttings for you guys, I don't always get, because I propagate so many fig cuttings and sell so many fig cuttings, I don't get to reap what I sow necessarily of the Smith fig. Because when you prune fig trees, they often become more susceptible to cold damage. And we just had some really cold winters, guys. But if you let this thing mature into a tree form, or just let it mature over the course of a few years without any dieback, then it will deliver for you as fruit. It's so good. It's so good in the humid climates here. That's why I grow it. Here's the thing. I'm excited to see what Texas BA1 is like, which is very similar to Smith, but it might be a little cold hardier. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how it compares. And if it does supersede it in cold hardiness, but every fig is special to me at this point in this orchard. So I wanted to share that with you guys. Smith is worth having in the ground anyway. I moved you guys over here because I wanted to get a nice angle because in this alley is like Col de Dame Alley outside of this LSU Champagne, which is another honey fig. I highly recommend if you are a honey fig person and you already have Peter's honey or Constantine Algerie, LSU Champagne's right there. It's worth it. Just get it. Let it truly ripen on the tree and thank me later. But this is Col de Dame Alley or Col de Dame Alley. Where I have Col de Dame Gris, Col de Dame Noir, Col de Dame Noir, Col de Dame Tante, Col de Dame Gumata. And then in the corner back here, I have Genovese Nero, where we move away from it. These figs are worth growing. I know they're expensive. I know they're hard to get, but they are those ways for good reason. And I cannot tout Col de Dame Romata enough, Col de Dame Blanc enough. Moving over here more as we work our way zigzag back through the fig orchard. Here's my Col de Dame loaded with figs. Beautiful. You can see the heat stress on these Col de Dame noirs in the ground. And you know it's falling off. See, there's not a lot of sap flow. They turned yellow before they got fig rust on them, and that's just because they probably needed more water. And I also probably get a lot of solar radiant heat off of the greenhouse, and they're just getting hit so hard. Now that we're getting rain, these trees are coming back again. So just part of the process. You can see other trees like my Col de Dame Mutante looking fantastic. So just beautiful. Guys, look at all these trees here. It's fantastic. You can get lost back here. Place is like 60 feet by 20 feet, and you can still get lost here. Just checking out all the different fig varieties. LSU Holier, Galicia Negra, and then one of my favorites to have in the ground, I'm so glad it's here, and it grows beautifully as a tree, even harvesting cuttings and dieback, and I really want to promote this one this year. But this is my Borges Oak Gris. Borges Oak Noir, or also known as Violet de Solier, wasn't that great for me. Borges Oak Gris is fantastic. It's a beautiful two-toned fig, so it has those purples and grays and greens as hues like you would see on Smith and a few other varieties, like David Argentile. But I just love it. I love this tree, guys, and it wants to grow like a tree, and it'll fruit for you. It's awesome. There's one honey fig to have, and it is like commercially known, Peter's honey. It's getting back here towards the back of the fig orchard here, and it's loaded with fruit. If you are growing honey figs, make sure you let them ripen fully to get those full sugar flavors. They're not going to ripen off the tree for you, reminder. They're just going to taste so good, nice and sweet. It's what you want to pair with your coffee in the morning. So thank you, Peter's Honey Fig, for being extremely prolific. This is a 5-year-old tree, and I prune it back, and it just keeps delivering the goods. So must have Peter's Honey. Hidden behind Peter's Honey was one that went down to the ground, but actually does well in a shadier spot, is my Stella or Dalmatie. And look at the leaves, right? This is known for their leaves. They're known as Dalmatie from the Dalmatian coast of Croatia, but they're found all over Italy, the Adriatic Sea. They're an Adriatic type fig. It makes huge figs, less of them, but huge ones. I gotta pinch some so it'll set fruit, but because it went down to the ground, I really want it to grow back this year. There are a few other varieties out there that are just like this one. If I just had to have one Adriatic type, it's probably Ponte Tresa or Coledon Blanc, but right behind that would be Stella because of the sheer size of this Adriatic fig. It's huge, it's beautiful, it's got a wine red interior, and it's got a light berry tone, but it's got a lot of sweet honey flavors to it. Love it. It's a must-have in my orchard for life. When I first saw these, I was like, why doesn't everyone just grow this fig, you know? And it does well in cooler spaces like the Pacific Northwest. And it grows really well for me here in a very shaded area, which you always get nervous about with figs. So there's another one that does well in shadier spots outside of my Negroni or my Ronde Bordeaux, and that would be the Stella, AKA the Dalmatie. Turning over here, we have another super hardy variety that's super tasty, and that is my Teramo from Abruzzo. And look how beautiful these leaves are, guys. They have a very unique leaf pattern that can be very long lobed like this. Not quite club-like, but it has like a double indent here. And it makes a sweet, sugary fig that's small. It's early, and this is a very hardy tree that was discovered by Bill off the beaten path growing out in, I think outside Bethesda, Maryland area, on its own, unprotected. So, and if anyone's curious, Teramo is the name of the village in Abruzzo where it hailed from. Guys, turning you over here, I have white Genoa, and now people are like, oh, there's white Genoas a lot, it's pretty common. This one's different. If you've ever heard of Saratoga, which I doubt you guys have, unless you go back to the Figs for Fun forum, Saratoga was like a green fig. It had a little pink ostiole and had like a red interior. It was like bright red, not quite wine red. This is the only fig I can compare to that where it had those attributes. I got this one from Joe Morley himself, and it's died back a bunch of years down to the ground and up again, just because we get a lot of wind through here. It doesn't get a whole lot of sunlight like the other figs would. And then I had to put it directly next to my Genovese Nero AF. So this is my little ode to Genoa, or Genova, Italy. I might as well put a bunch of Ligurian basil underneath. This fig's fantastic. It can ripen in cooler weather. It is just, I can't compare it to any of the other white Genoas that I've seen out there. Now, what you see behind me is the tight orchard, the experimental orchard. The orchard I'm struggling to keep well watered. It would be a lot for me to go over all the varieties I have in here, but every rare variety you've perhaps thought of in the past 5 years is back here. Things like Nerucciola de Elba, things like Norella, Violet Sapor, Violet Dauphine. I have Paradiso Giovanni finally in my life. I have more LSUs back here. I have stuff from Profig, Natalino, Fico Chirino, Dodato, which I kind of want to make more popular again. And I have a few other cold hardy varieties and a few other fancier varieties. I'm really looking forward to this Black Celeste and the Blue Celeste because they're finally starting to mature out and put out fruit. Bordeaux Negra Ramada, Parachal Ramada. So don't get me wrong. Yes, there are other fancier varieties than I had out in my orchard, but there's some sentimental value to those trees. There's some maturity to the trees out in the orchard. But this micro nursery space where I'm letting trees mature is a museum of figs for me that has quite frankly exploded over the past 2 years. So I'm really grateful for all of you at the Fig Fam and the greater Fig community, because there's nothing like walking through all of this, picking out your favorite figs. And the bigger research of all of this is to find out the figs that grow best in my climate, the figs that taste the best in general, hybridization of the two of those, like what tolerance you can have. So what's worth growing in containers in my climate and what's not, and what's worth growing in the ground versus in containers here too, just because we can get such a variable spring. And then also trying to find out if there's anything so synonymous it's not worth keeping, like green ischia versus LSU strawberry, right? Those are pretty tight. I have both of them. I love me a good Adriatic fig. They're my favorite style of figs, but it might not be worth keeping the two in such a tight space. Now I am trying to scale and do a full-blown nursery here in the Southeast because I don't see a lot of commercial figs being grown on the East Coast. So this is all part of the research and the collection and trying to juggle it all, which is a fun experiment in and of itself, as long as you accept that it is an experiment. So really proud of the space, really excited to share it with you guys. Let's check out where the babies are. And you can see I made a path here between all the figs. It is hot, stay hydrated out there this summer, guys. I have more experimental varieties that come up into this point. I do have duplicates of them, but I'm trying to get them the fruit to confirm the variety I got. They're really from awesome trusted sources, but it's important that I research them before I start divvying them up for others to grow as well. That's the trade-off by having a fig nursery and having so many duplicates. On this side, these are all the trees I have for sale for now. And I have to be honest, it's dwindling quite quickly and I'm really grateful for that. I want them to grow into more mature trees, but you guys keep reaching out and I'm happy to help. And there's something that I'm really excited about now that I've gotten into starting a full-blown plant nursery, and that is seeing how well these trees grow for you. And that is seeing how well these trees have grown for you guys. I love seeing you guys eating figs off of cuttings I've sent you, off of small fig trees I've gotten you, off of small fig trees you've gotten from me, and that can't be anything better. That's like having some amazing discovery happen to you, and you immediately sharing it with anyone else who is of interest, and just seeing someone's reaction when they have their first fresh fig takes me back to the time that I had my first fresh fig. And that is the coolest thing. Like, I'm so glad I get to share that with all of you. And that's why it's the Fig Fam, because I just love bringing everyone together. And also just like anyone who gardens, who wants to know how easy it is or get into growing fruit trees, how easy it is to grow your own figs, whether it's in a container on your patio or in the ground, or even making your own little orchard in your backyard. It's very feasible in a smaller space than you think. But I've shown you the nursery space, and I've shown you this greenhouse, which you've seen a bunch of times. It's a Harbor Freight greenhouse. It's 10 by 10 by 12. I'm like 5'11", 190, so I love that I can move around in it and I don't bump into things constantly. It gets really hot in the summer, so I tend to let it air out in the summer and just keep my succulents in it. Shout out to my buddy Craig, who gave me this giant plumeria. It's a stunning, stunning tree. It flowers for like 4 months straight, and they smell like herbal essence shampoo. But real quick, as we move past my raised beds, we're gonna go to my patio. And I talk about patio figs for small spaces, and I think they look awesome in small spaces. So I have 3 fig trees that I grow in small spaces. Check it out. I have a loquat tree next to my plumerias. I have nectarine tree. I have a Red Haven peach that's new this year. I have my garden beds that are thoroughly scorched from the summer, but have definitely given me lots of string beans and eggplants, kale, basil, and then rotating crops of mustard greens, and look at all the tomatoes that are pretty well scorched at this point. I have a Harvey lemon that had a volunteer cherry tomato growing out of it, so tell me you use your own compost without telling me you use your own compost when you have a giant cherry tomato growing out. Right next to a Coratina olive and a Licino olive, both Italian varieties, and they both pollinate with each other. And they survive zone 8B in containers into the teens, no problem whatsoever. Between these olive trees, I have a fig tree, my salce, that I recovered from root knot nematode as just a cutting last year, or a year and a half ago, and it's grown beautifully. And the other 2 trees I keep here. Guys, this is my black Tuscan, which is basically black Madeira. You can see it's really only in its 2nd or 3rd year, and it's loaded with fruit. Look at this, covered in fruit. Tastes just like black Madeira, almost like larger than black Madeira. And the best part is, It's 3 feet tall and it lives on my patio. And in just one side I go, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3 times 8 is 24. 24 figs, second or third year old tree. No problemo. And don't even get me started with Ponte Tresa. This slow growing tree, because it's in a container, makes some of the tastiest Adriatic figs on the planet, and it just looks beautiful. I walk this way out to my outdoor shower every morning. I greet the fig trees, and they're just like loaded with fruit, living their best life. As long as you're fertilizing them regularly, trimming the root ball or up potting them every other year, watering them in the summer months every day with that 1-inch rule I talked about, you're golden. Patio figs are the coolest thing. Look at that. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy, just nice scaffolding branches, and off of those branches, you get secondary branches. And there you go. Potted figs, 1, 2, and I told you 3, and that's this Salche I just recently up potted. 3. About to ripen its first fig. So moving to this corner, I have one more stretch of figs to show you guys, and it's great. This is a perfect example of how to grow figs across a fence space that you kind of saw in the bocce court, but I also expanded to the other side of my yard. But I wanted to show you something that I call my Zone 9 wall. And because I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina, Zone 8B, but my house faces south. And I have a good amount of trees that block a lot of the wind, and I have this corner that gets even more wind protection. So in the winter time, it might not get as cold because I'm protected from the wind. I get solar UV rays all winter, and I have a southern facing wall that I use for thermal radiant heat in the winter. And so while the rest of the yard might be down in the Zone 8B temperatures, I think I'm getting Zone 9 here. And the only thing I could also add to this is probably some black pickle barrels or water barrels in the wintertime. But with the Zone 9A, I have my Awari Satsuma, I have my Meyer lemon, I have an Ichang lemon I just put in the ground, and I have this Lila avocado that is too big for my greenhouse, and it's gonna grow right here in my Zone 9A. You did see earlier, I do have palmettos here. The palmetto sable minor is native to our region. It's one of the hardiest palms, and it's a palmetto. On the other side of my Zone 9A area, which is my outdoor shower as well, you can see all my hardy citrus, and I have more Satsumas. I have a brown select Satsuma that's in the ground with fruit. And then I have some container citrus, including my Prague Satsuma, my variegated Eureka lemon, and a yuzu. And then I also have the Sugar Bell Tangelo. Most of those can actually go in the ground here with winter protection using incandescent lights and using a frost cloth. Let's go to the last corner and you'll see some of my other fruit trees, and you'll see some of my stellar figs that are growing in the ground along the wall. Over here we have a pomegranate, Salavatsky pomegranate, 2 of them. They are self-ripening and self-fertile, but having a pollinator helps a lot. Then I have 2 pineapple guavas. I have a Marion pineapple guava, and I have another one. I made sure they were 2 different varieties. I just can't remember the name. And they need 2 different varieties to pollinate, to ripen the fruit. Although you can eat the petals of the flowers. And yes, they taste like marshmallows. And it's right here in my little meandering micro orchard. And last but not least, we have a baby Black Madeira. And here's the thing with Black Madeiras, they don't need a lot of growth to want to put on fruit. I could rip this off and ask it to focus on growing more, but I have time. Along this wall, I have my white Madeira number 1, which just decided to settle in. So you can see it's all new growth from the base, which is why you have figs way down below, but it runs all the way up. And you can see I have 4 branches, but they act as my scaffolding branches. So next year they're gonna build off of those branches. And that is an ideal situation. And that is also because I cut down to this trunk here, and all of these scaffolding branches broke off from the nodes of last year's growth off this main trunk. And this is a perfect resultant of the rule of 3's growing to create an open interior and a canopy on top. And it looks beautiful. One that didn't really want to grow the way I pruned it was my Campaniere. It is an awesome honey fig. It's grown a ton. I pruned it down to this trunk here, and it said, that works for me, and it's grown this much already. And by June, put out more branches down there. It's grown this little water shoot over here, and I'm gonna let it do its thing because I don't think it wants to play by the rules or the rules that I was coming up with. And That's the case with figs sometimes. So we're running with it. Look, I got a banana corner, guys, and a persimmon. I put in a Giro persimmon. It's just a baby, I know, and it's growing just fine. And then over here, look at this. But there are 3 types of bananas in here. I have dwarf Cavendish right here. So shout out to Pro Fig for sending me that. He also sent me this dwarf Orinoco, which is, these 2 are hardy enough that if I protect them with little chicken wire this winter, that they'll put out fruit that tastes good. This is my Musa Bijou, puts out all this every year. I just think it looks beautiful, cool tropical accent. I mean, they didn't spread out of the ground till mid-April, and here we are, end of June, and they're 10 feet tall. I love them. They'll be hardy down to like, maybe even Pennsylvania if you're lucky, as long as you bury the corm. I've seen them in DC easily. Guys, I do have my Giambo persimmon, so shout out to Millennial Gardener for hooking me up with that. Thanks to you, Anthony. It's an awesome astringent Japanese persimmon variety. It tastes like pumpkin pie dipped in sugar. It's crazy. I have my raspberries and I have blueberries I'm trying to establish out here. I bought them small. I have a blackberry right here. And then you go into my little woods thicket where my fire pit is. I put in some American persimmons. I have a Shangri-La that I'm going to put in, mulberry right there. Some elderberries that are growing, and that rounds out my garden space. I have some persimmons that I grafted going on in the back, my compost pile. I have another blackberry that is all harvested, and I have a grape variety, a blueberry grape, funny name enough. But I can walk out here for hours, guys. This is my piece of peace, and I'm really happy to share it with you guys who all like to garden as well. If you guys really appreciated this, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you like. Let's chat in the comments below on what your growing space is like. I'd like to hear what everybody's growing spaces are like, what's working for them, what's not working for them. If you see anything that you think would work better in my area, or if you see anything that you liked in my space that you want to employ in your area, let's talk about it, let's chat. Grateful for this community, and reach out with any questions. Cheers, Fig Fam.